So you've decided to move, but like many of my clients, you're confused as to what is your best option. Should you sell your home and cash out? Or should you rent it and take advantage of the cash flow? It's a complicated discussion because it's unique to every individual client and person. But in today's video, we'll discuss wealth building, tax implications, risk versus reward, and more. But before we get into the video, do me a favor. Leave comments and let me know what topics you'd like to discuss and what your opinion is of the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're growing and we appreciate every single person. Thank you so much. Remember, like, share, and subscribe, and here we go. Maintaining, building, and growing wealth through real estate. That's the goal. And residential real estate makes more millionaires than almost any other form of wealth acquisition in the United States. And I'm a realtor, so I love the idea. But the question is holding onto your home and letting the equity build and taking cash out by being a landlord the right way to do it? Generally, the buy and hold mentality simply means you don't know when to sell. The equation seems simple enough. I mean, if I hold on to the house and I keep making the mortgage payments, eventually I'm going to pay it down or pay it off. At the same time, I'm making money by renting it, and therefore it seems like a no-brainer. But is it? The first thing is that the money that you put into your home, either through the down payment or by making your mortgage payments, is not called equity. That's a myth. That's a forced savings account at zero interest. And most people don't see it that way, but it's the truth. Equity is I bought a property for $600,000, I sold it for $900,000. That $300,000 is the profit. That's called equity. And a home is not an asset. You might be surprised to hear me say that, but when you meet with a financial advisor or an accountant and they're building your assets and liability columns on your spreadsheet, they list the home as a liability, not an asset, because you don't own it. The bank does. So therefore, it can't be an asset, it's a liability. And what happens if something happens to your home? Like an act of God, like a fire, a flood, an earthquake, etc. You will no longer have this home to count on for both the equity and the cash flow. But Michael, I have homeowners insurance. Right, but the cost of materials to rebuild a home continues to go up and the policy stays stagnant. So you won't have enough money to rebuild the house unless you go into your pocket and take out some of that cash flow. And lastly, what happens if you find yourself in a position where you need to sell, but the market's gone down? But if I sell the house, I can take that money and reinvest it in another asset class. I put a link below to a company called outweigh, which will pay you as much as 10% return on your money with little to no risk. And there are other investments like corporate or municipal bonds, which pay an attractive yield with little to no risk. Both of these ideas, outweigh and corporate municipal bonds, are not tied to the stock market. And while it's not for everybody, and this isn't the perfect solution, it does mitigate your risk and take your gains out of your home and put it into an investment so you're still growing and maintaining wealth. Cash flow. How much money do you actually make every month by renting the property? Well, the first step is what's your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance? In other words, what's your mortgage? So let's say hypothetically your mortgage is $4,000 a month. And you're thinking, well, if I rent it for $4,500, that's $500 a month. Not too bad. But what you forgot was the cost of maintenance, the cost of insurance, and what's called a vacancy factor. What happens if it sits vacant for 6 months? Then what? And that adversely affects your cash flow. Generally, you should consider about 10%. So, if you want to make $500 a month, you're going to need to rent this for $4,900. Not $4,500. But is it worth it? Let's say hypothetically that you have $300,000 in equity. And you're going to be making $500 a month every month in your positive cash flow. Well, all you have to do is take $300,000 and divide it by $500 to see if it makes sense or not. It's going to take you about 50 years to break even. The tax benefit. So when you sell a home, the money that you make is not regarded as regular income. It's regarded as an investment, and therefore the tax that you pay is capital gains tax. Now, it varies based on your income, but it's approximately 30%. So if you're single, you can deduct up to $250,000 as long as you've lived in the property 2 of the last 5 years. And if you're married, it's $500,000. But what if I lease it? Do I lose that benefit? Not necessarily. I can lease the house up to 2 years, and if I sell it, I still get the tax benefit. $250,000 single, $500,000 married. But if I lease it over 2 years, I forfeit the tax benefit, and I have to pay approximately 30% as capital gains. So in conclusion, it's not such a simple equation, because what's true for one person may not be for another. It depends on a lot of variables. For example, your age, your risk tolerance. An older person has a much lower risk tolerance than a younger person. And everybody's different, with different goals and different needs and different risk tolerance. But one thing is for sure, there is risk to being a property provider, aka a landlord. And what I tell my clients is, if you don't do rentals as a profession, meaning you own multiple properties and you make your income through renting property, then don't do it. Take your cash, invest it in other investments, and make money on your money. And that's the way you get it done. Well, that's the video. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, do me a favor and leave a like. Remember, like, share, and subscribe for more videos on residential real estate, and we'll see you next time. And subscribe for more videos on residential real estate.